In this video, I am going to teach you how to improve your English with feedback. I'm going to teach you what types of feedback you should get and how you should use that feedback to improve faster. Feedback is a very important part of improving your English. So, I hope you're ready to learn a lot. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Now let's get into the video. I would go as far as to say that if you do not get some kind of feedback as you continue your English learning journey, your journey toward English mastery and fluency, if you aren't getting feedback as you move along, then you're not going to make it. That's how far I would go. And why is this? Here's what happens with a single person doing something on their own, even if they're very self-critical. At some point, you reach this limit where you're living inside of the world of your limits, and you can't see anything outside of that because it's outside of what you can see. So, when you're practicing, if you can record yourself and listen and give yourself feedback and be objective, that's all great. But at some point, you may reach a level where no matter how hard you try, no matter how objective you are, you're kind of plateauing, reaching a wall. You may think to yourself at this point, well, that's as high as I can go. I can't improve anymore. It's frustrating, but hey, maybe this is just the limit. A person like me can't do any better. Or maybe you've sort of been living in this now bubble that's reached its limit, a local maximum, where unless you get something from the outside, a perspective from the outside, you will be basically stuck here. And it's something I see surprisingly often, where you get into these routines and these habits, and then you get stuck, and then you feel like, well, that's just how it is. Without thinking, well, actually, that may not be how it is. Maybe I just need to try a new tactic, try a new angle. And that new angle often comes in the form of feedback. Now, is feedback supposed to make you feel good and comfortable? No. Feedback is supposed to be uncomfortable because it is showing you where your weaknesses lie. So if you're plateauing and feeling pretty comfortable with all the things you've been doing up to this point, it's quite possible that you're a little too comfortable, and that comfort has forced you to kind of be this complacent, non-improving English learner who just likes to learn for fun but isn't really making any progress. So you need to make yourself a little uncomfortable, and you need to start building outside feedback loops into your practice, into whatever it is you're doing to improve your English. A feedback loop, of course, is when you do something and then somebody or something gives you some feedback about that, and then that comes back to you, and then you then use that or integrate that into the next thing that you do. It's called a feedback loop, and it's vital, very important. Now, again, I think everyone should try to give themselves feedback. I think that's very useful, even though it does have limitations. So, okay, what if you're ready to then get feedback in different areas of your English? And I'm going to share with you what those areas might be. Where can you look? So a few different places. You might, number one, look to fellow learners. Maybe you know someone who's also working on their English. Maybe that's a colleague or a classmate or a friend. Well, you might say, yes, but they're not a native English speaker. It can still be useful. Why? Because this problem is you're living in a bubble. So as long as you're getting feedback from someone who's outside of your bubble, you're getting new stuff. Now, if their level of English is very, very low, much lower than yours, maybe not the best idea. But If you're even close in your English levels with that colleague, and you know that they want to improve their English too, you might set up an agreement where you practice at specific intervals, maybe doing the same task, whether it's writing or speaking or whatever, and then you give each other feedback. It's really beneficial because it creates accountability, right? Some useful pressure. That's good. But also, they might know some things that you don't know, and you might know some things that they don't know. And you're also learning by listening to how well they're speaking or how well they're writing. And they're learning as well. So actually having an English buddy can be extremely useful if you set that relationship up in the right way. Now, that's not the only way to do it. You may also get feedback from a professional. Now, this should be probably a professional English teacher, someone who's experienced in identifying issues that you cannot see, right? And I want to stress here that not every native English speaker is good at giving feedback. That's the reason why English teachers exist. And not every English teacher is good at giving feedback either, by the way. So the value of an English teacher who's really good at what they do is that they can find or identify the things that you're doing that you have zero awareness of. And they can say that, and that because A, B, and C. And then suddenly you see a whole new landscape of possibilities. You can't see it yourself because you can't see everything. But a professional who's really good at what they're good at can. And so it is vital to get some outside feedback from someone who really knows their stuff. Okay? Now, in this way, I think it is probably worth paying a teacher. But I would just mention before you choose one, make sure that they are able to give very specific feedback and not very general feedback. If you ever hear a teacher say, work on your pronunciation or anything like that, don't pay them any money. And that's my advice. It has to be very specific. They need to be able to identify exactly what you need to improve. Okay? Now, we've talked about people, but what about tools and platforms? Yes, absolutely. We've talked a lot about ChatGPT. ChatGPT is great for giving you feedback on your grammar, on your writing, to help you correct your emails, right? If you want to write something practicing grammar, you can say, is this grammatically correct? Or can you give me several variations of this? Or can you explain the grammar of this sentence? And ChatGPT will happily do that. So, yes, use tools. Grammarly can be good too. You can learn a lot about things like punctuation with Grammarly. I'm not going to necessarily recommend any specific tools here other than ChatGPT and Grammarly, but if you find something that is useful to you and is constantly giving you that slightly uncomfortable feeling, that feeling of, that's the thing I need to work on next, if it's helping you in that way, go for it, right? But there isn't any one specific tool that is perfect for everybody. But there are tools and platforms out there that you can and should use, again, as long as they're pushing you forward and showing you where your weak areas are, showing you where you need to really improve, okay? So the next thing for you to do, I think, is plan out, map out maybe the general areas you need feedback, which ones are most relevant to you, and then start building a plan. You might want to get feedback on your writing accuracy. You might want to get feedback on your grammar usage. You might want to get feedback on your speaking fluency. Maybe you want to get feedback on your overall pronunciation, right? The pronunciation of specific sounds. Maybe you need feedback on the structure and impact of, whether it's speech or in writing, of how you express yourself in English. Maybe feedback on your use of vocabulary. Could you be choosing more accurate and specific words, right? Any of those areas and others, think about what those most critical areas are for you, and then start building a plan that includes, very importantly, that includes feedback loops, right? That means something coming from the outside of your awareness that is coming back to you that you can then integrate into the practice that you're doing. And I would say if you feel totally comfortable every day when you study English, that's a problem. You should always be a little bit uncomfortable, okay? So if you have any questions about this, let me know. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And also, check out my free course, Natural English Conversations, in the links in the description.